So, the Champions League semi-finals is done. The final is locked in, and we know now Inter Milan will play PSG in Munich in a couple of weeks from now. But let's dissect some of the semi-finals and really talk about what happened. Now, there's going to be no snazzy intro. I'm just going to go straight into the games. And we're going to start off with one of the best semi-final ties of all time. Inter Milan versus Barcelona. 3-3 and then 4-3 on the night, making it 7-6 to Inter Milan on aggregate. All I can really say is wow. And I'm using this mic because, honestly, guys, after yesterday's game, I'm still recovering. So I'm not quite there yet. But anyways, Inter Milan, I feel like, showed everyone that, everyone talks about Inter Milan as this great defensive side. The structure is so good. No one really talks about their capability to, I guess, stick in and get things done and also score a lot of goals. But they've shown that over the course of these last two legs against Barcelona. I think if I had to choose a standout performer from Inter Milan's team, at least over the semi-finals, Denzel Dumfries deserves his flowers. Absolutely deserves his flowers. I feel like he was the best player for Inter Milan in the two legs. He was crucial to the way they were going forward. I know usually sometimes people tend to focus on DiMarco and Bastoni on the left-hand side, but DiMarco was getting schooled by a 17-year-old Lamine Yamal. Absolutely insane. Dumfries, on the other hand, was making things happen. Not only did he score 2 goals in the first leg, but then he also got 2 assists in the second leg. If that's not a standout performer when it's crunch time in the Champions League, then I don't know what is. Now, by no means am I taking anything away from Barcelona. I feel like Barcelona played a really good game. I feel like Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, those two on the wings, wow. Very, very exciting, very, very entertaining. But I feel like in this young Barcelona team, I feel like maybe they need a bit more experience in the team in terms of how to handle the game, because they were 3-2 up in the tie with only a couple minutes left. And all of a sudden, by Lamine Yamal going forward, taking a shot, obviously hit the post, and then 2 minutes later, Acerbi scored the equaliser. Take it to extra time. Now, I'm not criticising Yamal for shooting because, listen, if he wants to score another goal and he thinks he can, by all means. But sometimes in the game, it's best to just go to the corner flag, even though I know that's what a lot of people hate to see. They hate to see these time-wasting tactics. In a game like that, a game of that magnitude, booking yourself into the Champions League final with just about 2, maybe 3 minutes left of the game, run to that corner flag. Run to the corner flag and win a foul, or knock it off them for a throw-in, or get a corner. Something. Don't, give them an opportunity to just win possession back and then hit you guys on the counter, which is exactly what Inter Milan did. And then Acerbi, the 37-year-old veteran, scored the equaliser. But like I said, I am definitely not discrediting Barcelona in any way, shape or form. Those two teams are absolutely fantastic. And before I even get on to the second semi-final, which is PSG and Arsenal, I just want to say those 4 teams, Inter Milan, Barcelona, PSG and Arsenal, I feel like were the semi-finalists that were deserved. I feel like those 4 teams were the best 4 teams in the Champions League, and I feel like each of those teams definitely deserved to get to that position. I feel like in the Inter Milan and Barcelona game, either one of them could have gone to the final, and you wouldn't have thought that someone was robbed of their place in the final, or someone, kind of shagged their way through or jimmied their way into the final. Like, they both are very, very good teams. I feel like the key moments in this Inter Milan and Barcelona tie was definitely, I guess, when they went 2-0 up after the penalty. I feel like Inter Milan should have been able to, I guess, completely kill the game and don't even give Barcelona a sniff. I feel like what they should have done is probably killed them with passes through the back, controlling the game, slowing it down. I feel like by allowing them to just, Inter Milan kind of just gave Barcelona the ball and said, here, go and play, try and break us down. And then they broke them down and they made it 2-2, and then Rafinha made it 3-2. And it was a thing where, Inter Milan were in a very comfortable state during the game. And then I feel like if they just had a bit better game management, maybe we wouldn't have seen Barcelona come back and score 3 goals and then make Inter have to dig in, get the equaliser, and then force it to extra time to then eventually get the winner. But hey, what do I know? And now on to Wednesday's game, otherwise known as heartbreak again for Arsenal fans. So PSG beat Arsenal in their home stadium 2-1. A week after beating Arsenal in their backyard 1-0. So overall, PSG went to the final after beating Arsenal 3-1 on aggregate. And I feel like there's a lot of reactions going out after this game that are kind of unwarranted. The first thing I want to address is Arteta saying that Arsenal were the better team over the 2 legs, and in saying that, should have beat PSG and go to the Champions League final. I want to say he's wrong. And it's probably hard for me to admit because I'm an Arsenal fan, and of course I want to support my team. Of course I want my team to be the best. But the real measure of a man sometimes is, putting your hands up and owning up, saying, you know what, the other team were just better. And that's exactly what happened when we played PSG. Like, in the first leg, yes, aside of the little barrage, I guess, towards the second half, or even in the first 15 minutes of the second half, PSG overall were a better team that day. In the Parc des Princes yesterday, PSG were a better team. Yes, there were a flurry of chances and shots that probably should have gone in, if not for great saves from Donnarumma, but overall, they were the better team. The second thing I want to address is the fact that some people say Arteta out after this game. And for me, I'm not quite sure how you can look at this game and in the manner in which we lost, I don't understand how you can say Arteta out. Again, it's not like Arteta is a player manager and he was the one in the midfield that was letting balls go loose, not picking up their men, not doing their defensive duties. He's coached a very good game. And we saw this in the first half. We had 3 very, very good chances early on. And that was definitely the tactic. Go out and blitz them with attacking play. We just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. Simple as. But if you had told me 3 years ago that in 3 years' time we're going to be in the Champions League semi-final, feeling like we should have got into the final, feeling like we should have, booked our place in Munich, I would have said you're joking. And most Arsenal fans would have said so as well. Maybe not Ty from Arsenal Fan TV, but every other fan would have said so. Now, look, I do understand people say this whole thing about finishing second, and then looking to finish second again. How can you be so content with mediocrity? How can you be so content with, being in the same league position, challenging for the title but not winning it? One thing you have to understand is that football's not linear. Football's not career mode. And I feel like for me, as a fan of Arsenal Football Club, and as a fan who knows their club, and as a fan who's gone through the trenches with their club, and let's be real for a second, Arteta didn't come into the club off the back of the club winning Premier Leagues. He didn't come into the club off the back of Arsenal winning Champions Leagues. Arsenal have been meaty for a very, very long time. The last time we actually challenged for the title was when Leicester won it. And to be fair with you, we probably should have won it that year anyways. So all of this sort of entitled outrage by certain Arsenal fans, I'm not saying all Arsenal fans, certain Arsenal fans, all of this outrage is unwarranted. It makes no sense. But enough about Arsenal. Let's talk about PSG. PSG were absolutely sensational over the 2 games. And I feel like Luis Enrique knew that, you know what? To win against Arsenal, you don't necessarily need to dominate the game. You might not necessarily have the most possession. You don't necessarily have to, have the most shots on target as well. But when you do get into that final third, when you do manage to get a shot off, you need to be clinical, because that's where Arsenal lack. Arsenal don't have any forwards or I guess any number 9s, any strikers that are clinical. You look at their wingers, Saka and Martinelli, they're not necessarily the most clinical type of wingers. Now, I'm not saying they're rubbish. I'm just saying that it's not one of these things where, you give Martinelli a 1v1 like he had in the Emirates, and he's definitely scoring that. Even Trossard had a 1v1 and he didn't score. However, when it came to PSG burying their chances, Hakimi needed one chance. Kvaratskhelia, their first shot in the game, hit the post, and it already rattled the whole team. So this is what I mean when I say I feel like Luis Enrique coached a fantastic tie. And I feel like just from the turn of the year, really, from when him and Dembele finally got on terms and Dembele was finally playing again, Luis Enrique has transformed that PSG team to an absolute monolithic unit. Honestly, they're just a massive, massive team with so much quality. We're talking about Dembele, we're talking about Kvaratskhelia, we're talking about Doué, we're talking about Vitinha, João Neves, Marquinhos, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes. These are players who are, I guess, in the top 10 percentile, or the 10th percentile, whatever you want to say it. No, top 90th percent. I can't remember. They're in the top 10% of their position, basically, is what I'm saying. I don't think you can name me 10. You definitely can't name me 10 players better than each of those players in their position. You might not even be able to name 5. And ultimately, PSG just had a lot more quality in comparison to Arsenal. They had a goalkeeper who was fantastic, and I'm not saying David Villa is not fantastic, but when it really mattered, Donnarumma made the crucial saves. David Villa couldn't. When it really mattered to put away chances, PSG's team could. Arsenal couldn't. That's the crux of it, honestly. And now on to the final. In Munich, PSG versus Inter Milan. Now, Inter Milan, they were in the final 2 years ago against Man City, and they lost 1-0. And now a lot of Inter Milan fans might have felt hard done by with that final, because Lukaku came on and splurged 3 opportunities to equalise and win the game. It was horrid. But then at the same time, I feel like Inter Milan have been knocking on the door ever so slightly. They're bound to win the Scudetto this year. They've won it again in recent years. And I feel like the Champions League is the final gemstone, I guess, if you will, in Simone Inzaghi's kind of inventory. I feel like it's the one thing that he really, really wants to achieve. And after that, he might leave. He honestly might leave Inter Milan after winning the Champions League, because I feel like what he's done with his team has been nothing short of sensational. From this one piece of transfer business alone, getting rid of Onana for around 40 mil and then buying Jan Sommer for 5 mil from Bayern Munich, that was an absolute, that was just great transfer business, honestly, from not even just Inzaghi, but the whole Inter hierarchy was absolutely amazing. And look, we're seeing it. Sommer pulled off great saves against Barcelona, definitely in the dying minutes in Tuesday's tie, to stop Lamine Yamal's shot from going in. And it just goes to show that, you know, certain players, even when we're talking about like what he's done with Çalhanoğlu, someone who was predominantly a 10, you know, someone playing further forward in his latter years. When he came to Inter Milan, Simone Inzaghi said, no, come back a bit. Let's put you in this holding midfield pocket, and let's really put your passing and your directness to use. And we're seeing him turn into one of the, I guess you could say, one of the best holding midfielders in world football. I don't think there's many that are better than him. Sure, he's not a brute. Sure, he's not defensively a rock like someone like maybe Kimmich or Palinha or even Rodri. But what he does in Simone Inzaghi's system is absolutely fantastic. Now, if we look at PSG, going on to the final in Munich, where, again, like I said, Munich is a destination where teams win the Champions League for the first time, and PSG haven't won a Champions League. Now, PSG are a team that have been promised a Champions League trophy since Nasser El Khelaifi took over. Like, if you look at all the transfers they've made, I guess, over the last 10 years, we're talking about Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, all of these stars. It's because they want to win the Champions League. Like, Liga has been under wraps for many, many years. Like, out of 10 times, they're going to win it 9 or 8, bar 1 or 2 years where, you know, you have a Lille win it, or you have like a Montpellier winning it. Those types of teams, once every 5-6 years, will try and come up and test them. But usually, PSG have it under wraps. I feel like this would be the funniest thing ever. If the year that Mbappe leaves PSG, for free, by the way, no money recruits from Mbappe, you have no more of these, you know, quote-unquote stars and icons in the game in your team, this is the year that everything works. This is the year that PSG potentially do the treble. You know, they've got the Liga wrapped up already. They've got the French Cup coming up soon, the final. And then now they're in the Champions League final. If they manage to do this treble with no superstars, it will be such a wake-up call to PSG and their hierarchy. And I feel like it'll be some sort of maybe even a healing moment for PSG and French football, you know, realising that you don't actually have to rely on such superstar names to get you the biggest trophies and the biggest achievements in football. It could be a thing that could really resonate and maybe even create shockwaves throughout football. But ultimately, guys, I want your predictions. How do you think the Champions League final is going to go? Will PSG win their first Champions League trophy, or will Inter Milan add yet another Champions League trophy to their cabinet? Let me know in the comments down below. Quick side note, I'm planning to be in Germany for the Champions League final. So guys, if there's anything you want to see from me when I'm there, you know, whether it's, you know, vlog, whether it's me asking fans, please do let me know in the comments down below, and also hit me up on my social media platforms. It's MidsMB everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, obviously here on YouTube, and let me know what you guys want to see, because I plan to make quite a bit of content whilst I'm out there. Of course, if you guys enjoy this video and the way that I've done it, make sure you let me know in the comments down below. I enjoy reading your comments, and make sure you subscribe to join MB United, where we talk about everything football related. Most importantly, if you enjoyed it, smash this like button so other people can find the video and enjoy it the same way you did. Now, there's going to be a video popping up on screen. I guarantee you guys are going to enjoy this video just as much, if not more than this video. So make sure you click that and watch that. But until next time, keep it real, and I'll see you when I see you in a bit.